Welcome back to the Let's Play with Diego.
Hi, I'm Esteban. I don't know. Was I supposed to say something there?
No, that's good. That's good. We were talking about the history of Harvest Moon, how the game functions, and more specifically, sort of the border this game has between quantified, sort of shown.
This game has a lot of hidden information in it, and some of it is deliberate, probably. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna scratch that. Deliberateness doesn't matter whatsoever on that design. This design was made by a very small crew of people, working with best that they could with their resources. Had to be very quick. They were crunching really hard, long hours, sleeping under the desks in order to pull this together after a fairly tumultuous start. And so that means there's a bunch of weird stuff. So one of the weird things I'd like to talk about, can we go examine our fences? I want to see how they're looking. So this fence system in the game, yesterday you were chopping some wood so that we could lay down these fences, and inside of these fences you can place some livestock, you can grow some crops and stuff, but the thing is, these fences are all completely fake as far as the game code is concerned. You can place it, but it doesn't matter whether it's an enclosed area. It doesn't matter whether it's open. Like if, like right now, our fence isn't contiguous, right? Like there's holes in there. Mm-hmm. If you put an animal in there, they could easily just run away. The game itself doesn't care about that at all. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters to the game is whether a fence is broken or not. We don't have any broken fences, but we do have to check, because every night there's a chance that a fence will become decrepit and the sprite will change and it'll look a little more
Shoddy.
A little shoddy. If that happens, then during the night, livestock that we leave outside could be eaten by a wolf, or they'll run away and disappear. That doesn't matter whether the fence is contiguous. Doesn't matter whether you have any fences at all. If there is a broken piece of that fence, then there's danger and risk. So what we have to do in the game is you have to check your fences, make sure they're all cleaned up and stuff. But that's on the player experience side, right? The player experience side is you're going to go around, check your fences, make sure none are broken. On the game code side, it's just like, hey, are any of these fences broken or not? The result of this, though, if you look at like a walkthrough or a wiki, the advice that it'll give you if you're playing this game for an optimal run is never put any fences down whatsoever.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Best version of this game, if you want to play...
Ooh, money.
Whoa! What's that?
Berry of Power Tree.
Holy shit! That's extremely good. That thing will increase your stamina so you can do more shit. But like, did you know that's what it did?
I could guess. But
would you ever know?
No.
Nope. That's one of the poor things with this, all this hidden information. You just got a berry of power. Something changed. Maybe not. But there's no way you can know.
One thing along that line that I really love about this game, though, so I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley this last year. I'd say it's probably top 3 most played games in 2018.
So that's where you and I differ. I don't like Stardew Valley at all. Like, in the slightest.
Is it too much UI?
Yeah, there's too much in that game. It's too much. I don't like any of it.
But one thing that I do miss from Stardew Valley is that you see our character eats 3 times a day, and that's a way of sort of knowing how time is. Yes. In this game, a character eats 3 times a day, and that's a way of sort of knowing.
Because there's no clock.
Yep.
You can unlock a clock, but only after the first year. And it's very difficult to do, actually. You have to upgrade your house to its max level before the first year is over. Is there any way that you would know that when you're first playing this game without a walkthrough? Absolutely not. Is that like terrible bad game design? Yeah. Kind of, maybe. But the fact of that is that like all this hidden information means that like the game's really not it's not helping you. It's not adversarial, but it's kind of mysterious, right? A lot of stuff happens in this game that you as a player have to kind of imagine and develop sort of superstitions around. Because like we were talking about with the stamina system, you don't know exactly how much stamina you have at any given moment. There's no way to check. So you just have to kind of watch your character and count, like, okay, I can swing my hammer at this stone 6 times and then I start getting tired. So like that's my stamina, 6. And you try to keep a count of that to yourself. But if that changes a little bit, which it just did because we got a barrier of power, that changes that model. And so that develops superstition on the player side. Just like, hey, I think this is how this works, but you're never actually like completely sure. And in fact, if you look at these walkthroughs, which I was mentioning that like the optimal way to play this game is to never put down a fence down anywhere. That's an example of just like a weird example of how poor, incomplete coding on a rushed project sort of creates a weird half system that's best like ignored rather than actually engaged with as the designers would have intended to. The designers, of course, want the players to be placing fences around, but because the code is incomplete, you don't have to, and it's better if you don't ever at all. These incomplete systems, though, can lead to these cool superstitious moments where it's like, all right, I don't really know how this game works, and in fact, walkthroughs themselves don't completely know how games work. And I've seen some walkthroughs that actually just like call out other walkthroughs and say like, hey, you see this thing it says here? That's bullshit. That's false. The game does not work like that. Let me tell you how this game works. And they'll like be fighting with each other about like, hey, this is how Harvest Moon actually works. And no one really knows unless you like dig into the source code, if you're able to do that and really figure out like what the actual variables and systems are. Otherwise, it's all just like, it's superstitious. It's like, do I need to stay inside of the hot springs to rejuvenate? Do I need to be in there for like 10 minutes or just like 30 seconds? Like that takes experimentation. That takes figuring things out. And then there's some things that are just like, I did a thing. I don't know if it did anything at all. Like, I don't know if I need to do this every day. Like, should I oh goodness, what's a good example of this? Like, should I brush my horse every day? Does that change anything? No one knows. Who knows, dude? It might. We just got a power barrier and our stamina increased.
One thing I would push against that, though, is that I don't know if I've ever worried about my stamina in this game. I don't know if that's something that I've ever considered. Yeah, like
Oh,
I've seen
dude.
I've seen Mr. Skip get tired, but I don't know if I've done anything about that.
Here, I'm going to tell you to go do something right now. I want you, as Mr. Skip, to just break as many rocks as you can with a hammer.
I'm gonna go grab my
Yeah.
hammer tool.
I worry about stamina a lot when I play this game because that's the... there's 2 big factors that sort of like determine how you're playing this game on a day-to-day basis in the game. One is time. Like, can you finish gathering resources to put in the shipping box before the man comes to take away the shipping? And that's how you get money, right? So you got to get all the stuff they want to ship out. You got to get all that done in time. After that happens, though, it's nighttime now. The only thing we have to worry about that limits us for what we can do during this day is our stamina system. If the stamina runs out, there's nothing more that we can do. Like, you're starting to reach a point where it's become more and more frequent that our character is reacting to doing these actions, and it's going to quickly reach a point where our character literally can't do anything anymore. So you just fell over, try to use your hammer again. You can't do anything. So
Wild.
that limits the number of actions you can do total. You can only swing that hammer so many times in a day, unless you go now to the hot springs to rejuvenate, and then they'll let you swing your hammer like 5 more times maybe before you have to go run over again. But that takes time and stuff, and so that's sort of like the main primary economy of the game, how everything's built.
In a way that is more explicit in something like Stardew Valley, with both the clock with a sort of daylight visual on it, as well as the health and energy bars, which are very explicit and very numerical, in a way that is both sort of more consuming of the space on screen, but also potentially sort of more accessible to
Yes.
the systems.
Yeah. So one of the like golden rules of game design is like the players' actions and the reactions of the system. Like, the system should be predictable and consistent, right? Like, and those are all like the same thing. It should be predictable. That means that reactions are always consistently happening the same way every single time. If there is randomness, that randomness itself is consistent, and you can count on a degree of randomness. If something behaves one way 90% of the time and then 10% of the time behaves differently, that's going to be a huge upsetting surprise that first time, unless that keeps happening, and then you're able to say, okay, there's a 90% chance of this happening.
Let's continue this conversation next time.
Okay.